What's going on, Clarence? Cornmeal. Let's do it. D-man alright. Whoa. D-man alright. Spicy mafia. Spicy mafia. You gotta keep it spicy. If you see a queen, you better wife it. While we lit up in a lighter, it makes things much brighter. So you gotta keep it spicy. You gotta keep it spicy.
All right, well, this is indeed an honor. I've got none other than Nischal Shetty, the CEO and founder of WazirX, which is a Mumbai-based exchange, a peer-to-peer exchange in India. And they've got some pretty great news, really historic news for the cryptocurrency world. But before we get into all of that, first off, Nischal, thanks so much for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
I'm glad to be on the show, and thanks a lot for having me here.
Yeah, it's really, this is a super interesting time for cryptocurrencies and in particular exchanges, but specifically for WazirX, right? You've just sort of kind of snatched a nice little merger there. In case people don't already know, you have linked up with Binance, which is arguably the biggest international exchange of them all, and certainly one of the more innovative. Congratulations on that, and take us through a little bit about your thinking. Why is now the time to partner with Binance?
Thanks a lot for that. I think, this is indeed, I would say, a great news for the not just for us as a team, but even for the entire Indian ecosystem. And surprisingly, so by the way, this is the first time ever that there's been an acquisition in the crypto ecosystem in India. So WazirX happens to be the first company in India in the crypto space to be acquired by an international company.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So so talking about the whole thought process behind why we did what we did, I think we launched WazirX in March 2018, and just about a month after we launched, the whole banking restriction in India came. We can talk about these restrictions, going
Right.
ahead in the podcast.
Right.
But it was just 1 month in, and then we realized that we had to, quickly tweak ourselves and change ourselves and adapt to the changing regulation in India, which we did. But along the way, one of the most important things I've realized in the last 15 to 18 months of building is that unlike every other industry out there, this is a very nascent industry. In fact, I think all of us happen to be one of those early people in an ecosystem like crypto. We've always been used to being part of something that already existed, was already huge, like the internet. I think most of
Right.
us, we were not like the early people who were telling others, hey, you should use the internet, it's great. We were people who were told that the internet is good, get on it. But I think with crypto, we are the building members of the whole ecosystem. And to do that, there's a lot of effort. I mean, now I have a lot more respect for those who spread the internet around, because there's a lot of hard work you have to do. And it's not just hard work, you need resources, you need expertise, which I realized, in India, if we want to do that, we need someone who's seen a lot more than what we have, done a lot more than what we have. And that's where Binance comes into the picture, because if you look at the rapid, crazy growth that they've achieved as an exchange, as a community, I mean, we just look at exchange part, that's one. But look at like, I'll give you a simple example of the whole Binance Angel ecosystem they've built. It's unbelievable. It's crazy that there are people in different countries wanting to help the Binance community out of free will. It's not even like they're throwing money at people and saying become an angel. It's just a privilege and just a motivation for people to be an angel in different countries. So I think there's a lot to learn from them, and which is what was the biggest motivation. The other was the mission part of things, where Binance wants to make crypto accessible to everyone around the world, which is what we at WazirX always wanted to do. And I think when missions align as teams, you can really go rapidly forward. And so these were like, some of the factors that helped us get into this whole deal with Binance.
Yeah, and you've got there a star in Changpeng Zhao, CZ, and he is just a force of nature. Did you have much interaction with him in particular, or was this strictly on a business level?
I met CZ at the beginning of the deal, and um, I think him as a leader in the crypto space, I think that's a very motivating thing, because when you talk to him, you realize he's at a stage where he does not really need to work for money, and
Right.
that's where the beauty of the interaction starts, because that's the last thing in his mind. The most important thing is, how do we ensure that there's more participation in the ecosystem? How do we ensure that the right things are done for people in the ecosystem? And those kind of conversations are really important and also fun to have. And then it's not like you're working; you're more of solving a problem, or going towards a mission. And that was a experience I had talking to CZ, and it was very early on. I spoke to him. Then recently we met again at the super meetup that happened in Singapore, and then I'm connected to him on and off on Telegram and stuff. So yeah.
And so there's I guess you could say we were talking pre-recording here, pre-interview, I guess we were talking about the importance of the Indian crypto market, and you sort of alluded to it earlier here in terms of the uneasy relationship between the Modi government and crypto. But I would say the shifting of the crypto universe towards Asia generally tends to go east, and India is sometimes skipped over. I think that's changing just because of the sheer muscle that the country has in terms of 1 point, X amount of people, 3 to 6, billion people, and you're in a city. I guess you're technically in the largest city in India, right?
Yeah, and probably it's. I'm in Mumbai. It's the financial capital of India in a way.
Right, and so you have sort of a first-hand view of India's cryptocurrency scene. How important do you think it is for Binance, who obviously is going to take over the world if they haven't already? They're just so incredible. I can't keep up with all of their innovations and everything. They're everywhere all at once. How important do you think the India market is? I guess we could start with Binance, but just cryptocurrency generally.
Yeah, I think if I think Binance is in a very unique position, by the way, where on one side they are comfortable with the whole ecosystem in China, and the other end you have now, because of WazirX, you have India. So that's like crazy, because China, I think traditionally, because of the language barrier, it's not an easy country to go for outsiders. But India, if you look at it, it's been a country where a lot of the global products have gotten acceptance within the ecosystem. If you look at like the search engine we use is Google. The top e-commerce site is Amazon and Flipkart, which is now owned by Walmart. So if you look at it, there's a lot of global players in India. So India, I think, is strategically important, not just for Binance, but even crypto as a ecosystem, because a lot more companies can gain entry into India because of the I think the language barrier not being there. English works out here, and you can talk to people out here.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I think India is very, very important from a crypto ecosystem point of view. I mean, see, we hear the same podcast. This podcast we are doing, people around the world can hear it, including everyone in India. So yeah, this is a definitely very interesting market, and surprisingly, it's been untapped. Untapped, why? Because of the whole policy, regulatory uncertainties.
Right.
It's been untapped. But if you look at everything that has happened over the internet, India has traditionally always been a little behind other countries in terms of adoption. But when it happens, it's rapid in India. Take, for example, the internet. We were late to the internet, but the adoption happened rapidly. Now, I think I recently read we have about 500 million people online today.
Unreal.
which is yeah, unreal. So that, and then take mobile phones for example. Again, the penetration, in a way, India skipped the whole desktop, adoption point of view, directly moved to mobile. But mobile has been crazy now. I don't know the metrics, but I think I'm yet to see someone who says I don't have a mobile phone. Be it in the cities, be it in the villages, everyone has it. So I think next wave will be crypto, which probably right now the whole regulatory uncertainty is playing out. But I also think this is a very interesting thing because the crypto market is very new. For it to gain mass adoption, a lot more products need to be built, a lot more work needs to be done. So while the ecosystem is doing its part of building out, I think India is doing its part of understanding the legalities and what to do. And it will all converge somewhere where then we will see like a boom, big, massive, adoption in this country. Probably in the next 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. But I'm sure when it'll hit crazy, and there'll be like mass adoption of crypto here.
And there's for listeners who aren't too keen on exactly all the goings on in India, there has been a Herculean battle at sort of the highest legal levels within the country between its cryptocurrency businesses and whether or not its central banks and its financial classes want to allow cryptocurrency to bloom there. And I think it's easy to. I don't think it's controversial to say that a government that's trying to wield, 1 point something billion people has an easy time of making any policy whatsoever. So here comes along these financial hotshots who, if you listen to the media rhetoric and, some of the scare tactics around the world, are here to upend the entire financial system as it exists. And then India has some, with Modi and so on, and demonetizing certain cash features and all these different things that went on in the last couple of years. I think it's easy to say that a government like India would necessarily be a little skeptical about cryptocurrency, but so there's the reality of that, and then there's actual adoption and sort of the Indian street. And I realize you're just one guy. You're a super important guy, so you're not just any guy, but you're just one guy in India. So I don't expect you to speak for everybody, but you're our portal there. What is the sort of the India street like in terms of crypto adoption, and what do people there think of it, and how open are they to it, and relative to, you said you have kind of, I guess, an optimistic view in the next couple of years that the government will find that happy medium to allow it to exist. But what's the sort of the average person's take on cryptocurrency there?
Yeah, see, I think in India there's a lot of confusion still amongst those who are not deep into crypto about whether it's even legal here, whether they can actually buy crypto. So that is always this niche segment, which is they know everything. They know they can buy, sell. There's nothing illegal about it. There's a banking restriction, but people are allowed to buy and sell amongst themselves, which is where the peer-to-peer part of WazirX comes in. But the general population, they've all heard about crypto. At least Bitcoin, they know. There might be many who do not know what is crypto, but they would know what is Bitcoin. So I think Bitcoin is more popular amongst everyone, thanks to the 2017 bull run that happened, because it got covered everywhere in the media, be it print, be it on news, television, everywhere it was covered. So everyone has heard about it. It's not an alien subject, but there is mass confusion whether it is banned, whether it is allowed or not. And that's where my work and a lot of other people's in the ecosystem of the work comes in, to educate the masses that you can actually buy this. Many think that the whole crypto or Bitcoin is criminal by default. Like they think only criminals use it, because that's a narrative that have been spread across in the initial days of when the whole boom and then the bear market came in. But yeah, I'm here to do the very thing of spreading the right information, which is what I've been doing. A lot more other people in the ecosystem have been doing. And I think what is happening is the young population of India, which is about the 18 to 24-year-olds, they have been the massive force into crypto in India out here. So if you look at it, it's all these youngsters who are vigorously taking to crypto. And having spoken to a lot of those people, the youngsters, I realized the reason is, they look, a lot of them look at crypto from a investment point of view. That's what majority of them do right now.
Mm.
And what they see is, they, as youngsters, have missed the part in India where there was this whole gold rush probably in the beginning, and then there was this whole property real estate rush where they've seen their grandfathers and fathers participate. And then there was this whole the equities market I would say rush that happened in India. But today, for the young population, the millennials and the ones after them, they have never come across an opportunity to be the early investors and reap the benefits maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line. And they see crypto as that medium for them, where they think of crypto as the investment opportunity for their generation. And that's why a lot of them are jumping in to be the early movers in this space. So yeah, I think that's where crypto is in from a regulatory point of view. So just to clear this out, our government hasn't said anything positive or negative about crypto. They've been more
Okay.
neutral. But the central bank has prevented all the banks under them from dealing with crypto related businesses and stuff, which is why peer-to-peer works, because it's from one person to the other. But an exchange cannot have a bank account in India and service except fiat deposits or withdrawal processed withdrawals. So that's where it is. And there was also word recently about a bill in India which proposes a ban and a 10-year jail term, which is true. There was a bill that was created by a committee that was set up. It was a separate committee set up by the government to understand what crypto is. And this bill does not necessarily mean that it will become law. It's just one of the many proposals. Usually what happens is such bills are then put out for discussion. But even that hasn't happened yet with the bill. So there might also be a possibility the bill might completely be ignored and a new committee set up. So we don't know which direction it is going. But you were right when you said that, in a country of 1.3 billion people with so many things happening, it's really hard for the government to come up with regulations really fast. So yeah, I think it's going to take some time in India. But and also the whole narrative of crypto, when one part of the world talks about crypto as replacing fiat, it's always the governments will always be cautious when they hear those things. So yeah, we are trying to ensure that the government understands there are more to crypto than just money laundering or terrorism stuff, because you can always control these things with the right regulations. So we are working towards that right now in India.
Yeah, it's a Herculean task, but I think that what happens sometimes historically in these cases, and you were talking about mobile phones and so on, is that the tech just simply overtakes lawmakers, and they're sort of forced to well, here's the ecosystem as we find it. They can kind of paint around the edges, but to stop it is nearly impossible and frankly counterproductive. But I think where you've really hit upon it, especially with your being acquired by Binance, is the crypto to crypto idea. So for at least a short time, you can sort of stay out of the fiat on and off ramps, in particular, and deal more in just straight crypto to crypto. So to maybe a regulator, you're just trading back magic, back and forth magic internet beans, and so who cares about that? But when you try to move into the fiat world and remittances and stuff like that, I think they tend to get a little sketchy. Am I right about that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. So WazirX allows you to buy crypto with your fiat, but in a peer-to-peer way, where we just act as custodians of your crypto. We escrow the crypto while the buyer transfers the INR, which is our fiat, directly to the seller's bank account without us having a bank account in between.
Okay.
So that's the mechanism. It's a three-party system. We escrow, you transfer the money to the seller, then we release the crypto to you. And that's how this works. And it's the biggest platform in India today, where and the cheapest way to buy crypto in India is through our platform. So everyone in India, if they want to enter crypto, they use WazirX for that.
Unbelievable. And so with, I guess your obvious competitor would be local Bitcoins, but your advantage seems to me to be many fold, in the sense that you're not just tied to one particular crypto, right?
Yeah, and we also have the exchange right there. So once you buy crypto with INR, then you can start trading crypto to crypto within WazirX. And the biggest difference between us and let's say local Bitcoins is they are more like a classified listing site, your Craigslist kind of way. What we have on our peer-to-peer, what we built was the world's first auto-matching peer-to-peer. So you just fill a buy or sell form the way you do on a traditional crypto to crypto exchange, and we have an open order book where you see all the prices. And the moment there's a match, we show you the bank details. You make the transfer. So there's no listing, there's no choosing, there's no understanding reviews and stuff of how the sellers or the buyers are. We do all of that for you behind the scenes, and you just have to make the transfer. That's all.
Yeah, that's a really great business model. And you were talking about the youth in India as sort of picking up the wave here. Is there a case to be made for CoinSpice is sort of partial to the peer-to-peer electronic cash sides of things, using it as a medium of exchange, and obviously not against investment or saving or anything like that, but the kind of using it in everyday life. Is there much to be said for that in India? Is there much call for it? Off the top of my head, remittances would be a natural use case, or is it just like the momentum is all behind just speculation and investment?
No, I think when you talk about remittances, definitely that is one major use case emerging right now, because of the whole when you do regular normal remittances, you lose quite a bit. I think recently I read somewhere around 7 to 8%. I'm not really sure about this, but there's a lot of slippage when you do remittances the traditional way compared to accepting crypto. And so that's definitely a use case that's emerging in India. Apart from that, the other use case, which is accepting payments globally, because India sees a lot of freelancers working for companies around the globe.
Right.
And for them to accept payments, it's a huge headache. It's not easy at all. So when crypto, what happens is so let's look at this before crypto and after crypto. Before crypto, if I want to work for someone somewhere outside this country, I'll have to first figure out, is there an easy, proper way for me to get money in from that client? Versus today, I just have to see what is the work. If it is exciting, I just go for it, because you can pay me with crypto. I don't care where you are. So I think that has been like something I've been hearing a lot from freelancers across the country, where they say that crypto has made it that simple for them to work with any client, not restrict themselves to particular countries, geographies, or payment. Because a lot of times what happens is payments then end up being only in the US dollar. That's because globally everyone can talk in it, but the amount of slippage that happens in those conversions between both these countries is a lot of money lost for these freelancers. And every percentage counts when you're working towards making a living. So I think crypto,
it's an extremely regressive tax of a kind, right? That slippage that you
exactly, and that's not even tax. After you earn, you still have to pay back.
Right. I'm using it as a metaphor, but you're exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I would say it's a very, very innovative thing and a very useful thing that has happened, where people can conserve their wealth, not just lose it just because there are no easy conversion mechanisms. I think so. I think remittance and this whole freelance ecosystem joining in, I think that those two itself, I think, is a huge market for crypto.
It really, really, really is. And before I let you go here, just kind of an anecdote. I didn't realize how many Indians we have in the United States, where I'm based. And by chance, I had, I'm not really prone to watching Trump rallies, but Prime Minister Modi was here in the United States, and he entered, of all places, that he would go, he went to Texas, which stereotypically, if you want to, again, stereotype Texas, not exactly the most cosmopolitan, international, at least off the top of my head. If you were
Right.
hey, where should I as an Indian go to, find work? And I would say, New York, California, and all the rest of the places. But anyway, boy, was I wrong. And Modi walked out. I don't know if you saw this, to it's definitely a sporting stadium, and I don't want to put too high a number on it, but maybe 3/4 of the stadium just packed, and they were Indians, and they were going nuts. And I was like, where'd all these Indians come from? That's
and so imagine the remittances that can that would be then occurring just from the US.
You and I think exactly alike. I'm thinking, oh, look at all the possible crypto wallets that are there.
Great. So probably then such international rallies are probably a great place for distributing probably
pamphlets
about crypto then, I guess.
We should get them on WazirX, right? Yeah, for sure. But I was blown away by. I mean, I've heard there's a definite tech connection, right? The whole we bring the H-1B visa guys over to do the work that lazy Americans are just uneducated to do in terms of tech, and Indians kill it in tech. But I was here it is, like the central. You don't get more Americana than Texas, and in an American football stadium with Trump, and they were going bananas for the dude, for Modi. And anyway, so how do you do you have much connection? This is just me asking you, dude to dude, here. Do you have much connection with the U.S. and do you see that as helping at all in the crypto adoption part of India? Is it relevant at all?
Yeah, I mean, I have friends all over, mostly mostly in the valley. I've spent a good amount of time in San Francisco. I think
nice.
the last 3 to 4 years, every year I've been spending a lot of time there. So I've made some friends and stuff. So I keep talking to them all the time, and now I know you now in US. So I think talking to you guys because but I see a difference right now where I think in the US in the crypto space it's more DeFi that I keep hearing about. And it's probably because the regulations are a lot more tighter in the US in terms of what you can run as an exchange, where DeFi can just just navigate that whole legality aspect, compared to India, where we are more still in the whole centralized space. I would say DeFi is yet to kick in out here, but I usually see US as a precursor to what happens here. So I think DeFi is going to come next year, and when I get to know these things, I tend to start thinking about it because I know it's going to come here next. So it's sort of my way to cheat into knowing what is going to be next in India.
That's fascinating. Well, good on you. Congratulations on being picked up by Binance. And I forgot to ask, I should have asked at the very beginning, are you still going to be WazirX? Are you still going to be involved? What changes should people who use WazirX in India right now expect with the Binance acquisition?
Yeah, so WazirX stays as an independent brand because it's really popular amongst the crowd out here, and they the ones who are using it, they really love it. So we intend to keep it as an independent brand owned by Binance and continue to grow it. The good thing is there'll be more rapid improvements in technology because now we have Binance where we can take a lot of help from them on what they've learned and what they've built, and we will also integrate our P2P technology within Binance.com itself. So if Indians who are trading already on Binance, they don't need to necessarily move to WazirX. They can just trade within Binance. And the idea is to take this P2P to more countries where there are banking issues.
Boom. Well, there it is. That was the great Nischal Shetty, of WazirX, CEO and founder. He is doing pretty big things in what I believe is really the future of cryptocurrency in India. Thanks so much again for coming on. And can you let people know how they find you, how they can follow you and your work?
Thanks a lot for having me on the show. And if anybody wants to follow me, I'm on Twitter, very active. My handle is Nischal Shetty, NISTHALSHETTY. And you can go, if you're in India, if you want to buy crypto, just go over to WazirX.com and you can easily buy it and be part of this whole interesting, revolutionary technology that's actually making people go crazy. Once you get into crypto, there's no going back.
Deep rabbit hole. Well, we are rooting for you. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Edward. And it was great to be on this show.